David Ricardo, 1772 to 1834. David Ricardo was a political economist hailing from Britain. The third of 17 children, was the son of a Jewish immigrant stockbroker. Ricardo developed a keen interest in economics after reading Adam Smith's book Wealth of Nations in 1790. Ricardo's achievements. At age 22, with the capital that he had and support from the financial community, he became an independent stockbroker. In 1819, Ricardo was elected to British Parliament. The first pamphlet that Ricardo managed to publish is The High Price of Bullion in 1810. In 1815, he published his essay titled Influence of a Low Price of Corn on the Profit Stock.
The theory of diminishing returns and rent. Definition of rent according to Ricardo is that portion of the produce of the earth which is paid to the landlord for the use of the original and indestructible powers of the soil. Later he modified to the return on long-run capital investment which are amalgamated with the land and increase its productivity. Rent exists because of two factors: shortage of fertile soil, law of diminishing returns, and it can be explained by extensive margin of cultivation and intensive margin of cultivation. Theory of exchange value and relative prices. Ricardo was concerned with relative values, not with absolute value. He wanted to discover the basis for the ratio of exchange between commodities. Exchange value of a commodities depends to two factors, which is their scarcity and the quantity of labor required to obtain them. According to Ricardo, there are two types of good, which is non-reproducible, such as rare works of art, classic books, all coins, determined by the scarcity alone. Reproducible depends on to its scarcity and the amount of labor time to required to obtain them. According to Ricardo, exchange value depends on a labor time necessary to produce it. But the labor time includes thus not only the work done in making the commodity itself, but work embodied in the raw materials and capital goods used up in the production. Theory of comparative cost. Ricardo made a brilliant and lasting contribution to economic thought by showing that even if one country is more efficient than other in producing all commodities, trade between the two nevertheless can be mutual benefit. Ricardo's theory of comparative cost is now known as the law comparative advantage. All costs measured in term labor hours, an approach consistent with the labor theory of value.
Limitation of theory comparative cost. Labor theory of value, mobility of factor of production, not applicable to developing countries, and constant return to scale.
Ignore transport costs, full employment, no free trade, complete specializations, static theory and demand ignore.
Limitation of low diminishing returns, shortage of capitals, improved methods of cultivation, and new soil. Limitation of theory of rent. According to Ricardo, rent is specific to land. In other words, rent arises for land, but modern economists have demonstrated that rent arises not only in case of land, but also in the case of factors of production.
Born in London back in 1772, David Ricardo became interested in economics after reading Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations book in 1799. Compared to Smith, his views were more specific and, let's say, less in the realm of philosophy. He is best known for 1. His first work entitled The High Price of Bullion, a Proof of the Depreciation of Banknotes, published in 1810, where he argued that there was a link between the increasing volume of banknotes and price levels. 2. His essay on the influence of a low price of corn on the profits of stock, published in 1815, where he advised against the protectionist measure of using tariffs, stating that such measures increase corn prices and the income of landowners at the expense of workers and industrialists. 3. His most famous work, Principles of Political Economy and Taxation, written in 1817, where, among other things, he articulated a labor theory of value, stating that the value of a commodity depends on the quantity of labor required to produce it. B. The theory of comparative advantage, advocating free trade in even more situations than Adam Smith's absolute advantage perspective. C. Concerns about population growth driving wages back towards subsistence levels, with Ricardo being a Malthusian in some respects.